Hey, Rebel Rouser. I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7 We're at episode number 1520. That's the numbered episodes. We're a little bit farther along with the bonus episodes, but yeah, we'll talk about that at some other point. We are here to talk today about Star Wars Resistance, and thank you so much for subscribing to the show if you are subscribing to it wherever you may be catching it. And if you're not subscribing yet, then hey, what's keeping you? Let's get you subscribed so that way you get these episodes right where you want them, so you don't even have to think twice about it. It just shows up. Isn't that so awesome? Just like Star Wars news just happens to show up. And right now we are in a news cycle, and we don't know what is going on behind the scenes at Lucasfilm, and particularly in their PR department, but we know that they've got a plan for the moments that are leading up to Star Wars Resistance and its debut on October 7th. We are just a little over a month out from the debut of Resistance, and we just got a featurette called Team Fireball, or at least featuring Team Fireball, and introducing us to the people who are working in this garage on the Colossus being the giant refueling platform that's in the middle of an ocean in a planet that is in the middle of nowhere in the Outer Rim, and that's as much as we know about it. But we have seen some things from the Team Fireball behind the scenes video that have enhanced our understanding and knowledge of Star Wars Resistance going into it, and so that's what we are going to be talking about here in the episode today. Now, what we know of the premise so far is that this character, Kaz Ziono, is going to this platform, the Colossus, to be a spy on the First Order, but his cover is that he is a mechanic with this Team Fireball, and he's working with an old friend of Poe's who is Jarek Yeager. It's pronounced Yeager, even though it's spelled Jaeger. And Jarek apparently was working for the Rebellion at some point in time and tried to retire peacefully, and doesn't seem like it's going to be so peaceful anymore. He's doing Poe a solid, and unfortunately it's going to get him in over his head, it seems like. But the Team Fireball thing, they are, not just a mechanic crew, but also a racing crew. And the point of what they have to do just in their day-to-day lives to survive is to win races so that they can survive and make money and so forth. So it's not just about the being a mechanic and that's his cover story. And we know that he's racing, but it seemed like racing was certainly a very favored pastime on this platform, but now we know that it's actually something that the team has to do as part of its just daily existence. It's not just goofing around or anything like that. No, it's very serious business. And then we have Tam Rivora, who is a mechanic on the crew as well, but she used to be a pilot herself, lost her ship, and she's hoping to get one back. She's described as the tough, no-nonsense character with a bit of attitude and a lot of passion, but likes to keep her emotions played down and kept private and that sort of thing. And then we have Niku, who is a Nikto character, and you remember Niktos, probably you saw them first in Return of the Jedi if you saw movies that far back. And Niku would be the very innocent, naive, but very smart, talented one. And then there are other characters kicking around that we haven't officially met yet, like Donald Faison's character or Bobby Moynihan's character. We've probably seen them here and there, but we haven't actually found out much more about them just yet. But speaking of characters that we have seen, or at least things that we've seen about them, we actually have seen an image of General Leia Organa, who's going to be voiced by Rachel Butera, and no speaking part for her just yet, at least not in these little glimpses that we've seen so far. So nice to know that Leia's going to be a part of this in her own way. And for everybody who's talking about a red-suited First Order person, yes, it was certainly the obvious thing to do to jump to the conclusion that, hey, maybe this is Cardinal from the Phasma novel, because nobody else is walking around in red armor in the First Order, so it seems to make sense. Except that maybe this is taking place closer to the events of The Force Awakens than we all might think, and if that's the case, then Cardinal may not be with the First Order anymore, so it's kind of hard to say. The other thing, too, is that the red armor that we saw briefly in earlier stuff, it was actually, what was it? It was a slideshow that was being pushed in August, I think. Yeah, something like that, where there was just a brief glimpse on a slide from a presentation, and now we've seen a lot more of that character, and it looks like it's a red TIE fighter pilot uniform. That's what it appears to be. Not to say that Cardinal couldn't have his own TIE fighter uniform that would also be red, but yeah, I'm starting to think that we're diverging a little bit here. And heck, maybe once Cardinal was gone from the Resistance, somebody else got the red suit of armor or a red suit of armor and was promoted to that position. That seems to me to be the more likely scenario. And there was one other surprise that was shown very briefly. It was almost a blink and you'll miss it moment in the featurette for Star Wars Resistance, and I'm going to tell you what that one is right after the break. Stay tuned. Hey, Rebel Rouser. Have you ever wanted to take a land speeder for a spin, or maybe even the Millennium Falcon itself? Well, here's the next best thing. You can make your own custom Solo a Star Wars story-inspired Nissan with the best-in-galaxy customizer. Just go to sw7x7.com/custom to customize and share your own Star Wars-inspired vehicle. And don't forget, Solo a Star Wars story is coming home on digital September 14th, Blu-ray September 25th, and new on 4K Ultra HD as well. Welcome back. So here's the deal with a shot inside the behind-the-scenes featurette for Star Wars Resistance. You get to see a couple of characters looking up in the sky and watching a ship flying overhead while they're on the Colossus, and that ship appears to be none other than Kylo Ren's command shuttle. Now, like Han Solo said in Return of the Jedi, there are a lot of command ships, and, he's right. There were actually a dozen of them, as it turned out. So who knows? Maybe Kylo Ren's shuttle is not a unique bird, if you will. Maybe there are more kind of like that, but kind of doubt it. I mean, it should be pretty easy to get Kylo Ren into this thing and not have to have Adam Driver do it just because of the mechanical processing of the voice. And, hey, they do have such things as audio doppelgangers, basically. Audio doubles, that's the actual phrase for it. So yeah, it would be entirely possible to have Kylo Ren show up on the series, and I think that's a card that they would probably want to play close to their vest for now because it would be a big reveal. But the show's supposed to be lighthearted in tone and definitely aimed at younger viewers, and so Kylo, he doesn't necessarily skew young that way, but I have a feeling that they are going to find a way to work him into this show one way or the other. And finally, one of the last things that we talked about has to do with the setting of the show. So we talked originally on the podcast here about how it was starting to resemble a little bit Deep Space Nine, the Star Trek TV series that centered mostly around the space station Deep Space Nine, and, jumped a little bit here and there. And we're getting talk of different settings, and we've seen a couple of those different settings inside that behind the scenes trailer too. So now they're kind of expanding that universe to some degree, but yeah, it still does feel like we are going to be mostly focused on the Colossus, and it does give it kind of that Deep Space Nine feel. But I'd love to hear what you think about that. Do you think we're really going to spend more time than anything else on the Colossus, or do you think that we're actually going to be hopping all over the galaxy? Let me know wherever you happen to be watching this show. And that is actually going to do it for this show. Now, I know in previous episodes, sometimes I will tell you what I have on tap for tomorrow, but I'll tell you as I'm sitting here right now, I have no idea what it's going to be on Sunday's episode. So that should be rather interesting. I'm sure something will percolate, but in the meantime, it's going to be a little bit of a mystery. So if you want to know what it's going to be, you're going to have to subscribe to the show. If you don't want to be thinking about it yourself, if you'd rather just, hey, let Google remind you, let Libsyn remind you, let, whatever service you like to listen to Star Wars 7x7 on and watch it on, let that service remind you of it. Just subscribe. It's real easy. And hey, if you're enjoying the show, then please do consider putting a tip in the tip jar at patreon.com/SW7x7. That's patreon.com/SW7x7. So it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2018 Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.